This is Dunrobin Castle in Sutherland in the Highlands of Scotland, and I'm here to look at a hawk and falcon flying displays that are operated here in the grounds of the castle. Andy will tell us more about how these displays work.
Okay, what we're hoping to achieve when people do come to Dunrobin is we're not a zoo or a menagerie, but we have a small team of hunting hawks and falcons. Everything that is down here in the gardens is flown, and what we're trying to achieve is to show everybody the differences of exactly what a falcon is and does and exactly what a hawk is and does. And what we try to do in the display is simulate a little bit of the hunting, whereas the hawks will chase a pretend rabbit after we've given them information of where they're from and how we train them and a little bit of the history. And the falcons, they're much more aerial, so we try to discuss the differences in physique, try to explain what each one would catch predominantly in the wild, what they're used for in falconry, and to wrap it and sum it all up, a little bit about the history of how they were used in falconry. And I think if we can achieve that in half an hour with most of the guests, I think that's pretty much what we're trying to do here at Dunrobin.
What have been the highlights in the history of falconry then, would you say?
Well, I think when falconry was almost at its zenith, there were highlights of the Loo Hawking Club that was run in Holland from the Royal Palace. Reading in the books, I found that the cultivation, or even then agricultural practices, were changing so much that the great flight of this aerial flight was coming to an end, and that was the end of it. That was one great era. I think Emperor Frederick is still renowned as being probably the most earliest ornithologist that ever was in 1250, and he's still written the largest book on falconry, and he was way ahead of his time.
You're sat there with a Lanner falcon. Now, the peregrine falcon, which is very well known in the UK, was at one time really almost lost as a breed.
It suffered quite badly in the 50s and 60s due to a pesticide called DDT, and especially on the eastern side where all the crop growing area is, they were almost wiped out. But also before that, in the Second World War, the government had a cull on peregrines because they were intercepting messenger pigeons. They even had falconers stationed at RAF stations around the coastal areas to try and intercept messenger pigeons leaving the country. I don't know whether they were ever successful, but the DDT had a detrimental effect. But the stronghold was places like Scotland, you know, where there were no spraying for agriculture, and around mountainous areas such as the Brecon Beacons, the Lake District, the Pennines, and obviously up here in the Highlands, they did hang on.
Now they're going from strength to strength.
Oh, for sure. There's more now on recorded record than ever before, and the peregrines always evolved to catch pigeons. They are now coming into our cities because there are no hunting grounds left. They're at saturation point, and we did take their favourite food, the rock pigeon, and we trained that into the homing pigeon, and now the youngsters are looking for new territories. They're considering our tall buildings as cliffs with lots of their favourite food, and this is why they're moving into our towns. It was the hawk here that probably made falconry such a popular subject, because even though the nobility and the hierarchy kept the falcons for themselves, everyone, any working class man who lived in Great Britain was allowed to trap and train a wild hawk from the woods, which would have been our native goshawk, for the purpose of gathering game. Now, Scott here at Dunrobin Castle, he very kindly did some information for me, looked through the archives of Dunrobin, and he found when he was looking through there that before the invention of the gun, everyone, that there were up to 6 falconers employed here at Dunrobin Castle at any one time, making sure enough game came through those kitchens to feed all the staff.
How often do you do the demonstrations?
We do demonstrations twice daily at Dunrobin, from when the castle opens, which is the 1st of April, right up until the end of October. So I get a well-deserved beer and a break at the end of October, Jeff.